Our foot is on the gas pedal. It's pushed all the way to the floor. It's Friday, but we don't waste any time. I hope you're well. You know, maybe it's me, but this election cycle with the Democrats and the media and their surrogates, it's more filled with hustlers and hucksters than I can ever remember. We got Bill Clinton here in Durham, North Carolina yesterday saying that Donald Trump's going to call the military on Americans. We've got Mark Cuban saying that Donald Trump is going to steal Christmas from you with tariffs. I mean, seriously, folks? We've got Kamala Harris, perhaps the laziest candidate in American history, saying Donald Trump is tired and lazy. We've got Bob Woodward saying that Netanyahu's prolonging the war to stay out of jail. I mean, I can go on and on and on. They're nuts. They're lunatics. Lunatics. And then they want you to believe there's something's wrong with us. They want you to believe that somebody like me, who has spent his life writing about, thinking about, defending the Constitution in courtrooms, at the Justice Department, in books, and with you, defending the Constitution against them, would vote for somebody in Donald Trump who's opposed to democracy. While it is they who keep talking about the Constitution is old, it was written by old white slaveholders, that it was written in order to enshrine the slave, white dominant society mentality. I mean, they're so nuts. They are so nuts. And then they're oligarchs. The Democrat Party oligarchs. They raise enough money to keep spewing this stuff. And, of course, they have their media, the Al Jazeera, Pravda American media, literally giving tens of billions of dollars in free platforms and coverage to promote this. It's really incredible. You've got a guy running for the Senate in Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, who's been going hard left. That's exactly what Schumer tells him to do. He's voting out there with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. All of a sudden, he's for fracking. And he's for tariffs on trade. What? They're desperate. And so they get dumber and nuttier by the second. And then we have a federal judge in Washington, D.C. by the name of Tanya Chutkan. Tanya Chutkan should never, ever have been confirmed as a judge. She is a radical in robes. That's exactly what she is. My first book, I had a chapter called Radical in Robes, and she's the perfect illustration of it. She's busy setting a schedule for a trial for Donald Trump that cannot be held until next year. But she's actually changing the rules of evidence and normal motion processes. So the unconstitutional Jack Smith violated the appointments clause when he was appointed. So he can keep filing papers and releasing them in the middle of the election. And it's an amazing thing. Our friends at the New York Sun point out that this guy, Jack Smith, he files like a 165-page brief, 3 to 4 times longer than any brief is normally allowed, but she said fine. Filled with hyperbole. Filled with spectacular BS. Allegations against Donald Trump. It reads like an essay. It reads like a Jamie Raskin impeachment charge. And wouldn't you know, 4 or 5 days later, Kamala Harris is using it in campaigns throughout the battleground states. And wouldn't you know, today, she released more stuff. Nearly 1,900 pages of documents collected by Jack Smith. They were initially filed under seal. And what does she do? Even though they're heavily redacted, she releases them today. On a Friday. 2.5 weeks before the election. She's clearly interfering with this election. And in my view, she not only should be disrobed, she should be disbarred. Smith, of course, should be disbarred, but she absolutely should be disbarred. This doesn't comply with an appearance of a conflict. It's not an appearance of a conflict. It's a reality of a conflict. She was appointed by Obama. She's a radical Marxist. She's on the bench for life, for God's sakes. She treats her courtroom like some kind of a Soviet-style, Stalinist-style propaganda operation, just signing off on the release of documents left and right, right before the election. She set the schedule. And rather than the defense filing motions, which is what's normal, and the prosecution responding We actually have the prosecution filing motions. And even over at CNN, their legal analyst said, well, that's not how it works. The defense files motions, then the government responds. She's allowing the government to file motions, and then the defense is responding. Absolutely outrageous. And of course she won't recuse herself. Stalinist judges never recuse themselves. So while they're talking about dictatorship and he's going to round up people and use the military, it is they. It is they who are using the court system. It is they who are using prosecutors. It is they who are putting this information out in the public record. A man can't even defend himself in the course of an election. She should be disbarred. There's absolutely no question about it. And they're scared to death. They're scared to death Trump will win and that he'll try and address some of this. So they act like he's the dictator. He's the one who's anti-democratic. He's the one that will use the legal system against his political opponent. They're doing it all against him right now. We don't have to guess. That's exactly what they're doing. The party of slavery, the party of segregation, the party of Jim Crow, the party of eugenics, now the party of Marxism and Islamism, never the party of Americanism, never the party of constitutionalism. They're going at it full bore. So what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They know that if they win this election, they didn't care if they run Kamala Harris or they run Minnie Mouse. It didn't matter to them. She's filling a seat, just like you see Biden. And the most radical among them, the Marxists and the Islamists, they're peppered throughout our government. They're peppered now throughout the judiciary. If they can get 4 more years appointing federal judges, 4 more years getting Supreme Court appointees, 4 more years of using the Department of Justice the way they are, issuing regulations, issuing fiats, executive orders, the border wide open, another 40 or 50 million illegal aliens coming into this country. They know, I know, you know. Then it's over. Doesn't matter if there's another election. Then it's over. And they know Donald Trump knows it. They know we know it. But of course, Liz Cheney and the rest of the reprobates, they hate Trump more than they love the country. They hate Trump more than they love the country. And they want to take out the Supreme Court. Why? Because they don't get the answers that they want. Because so far, for the most part, the Supreme Court has stood up against this tyranny, has ruled against this tyranny for the most part. So they figure, all right, we own the Supreme Court. We have in the past, and we have to own it now. So what should we do? We'll expand it. We'll kill the filibuster rule. We'll expand the Supreme Court. You don't need a constitutional amendment to do it. We'll have the presidency. We'll have the Senate. We'll have the House. There's not a damn thing they can do about it. What else will they do? They'll defy the Constitution. They'll create 2 more states, Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. They'll have 4 more Democrat senators so the Republicans can never have a majority in the Senate. What else are they going to do? And look at the Department of Justice. Non-citizens self-identify in Alabama and Virginia. I'm a non-citizen. They're on the rolls to vote. The governor of Virginia says, okay, you're a non-citizen, you're on the rolls to vote. Okay, we're removing you. The Department of Justice goes into federal court and says, no, you can't do that. The Department of Justice. They say it's a waiting period, a 90-day waiting period under the federal law. No, it's not. That federal law, I just looked it up, talks about a systemic change to the voting rolls. These are individuals who self-identify as non-citizens. It has nothing to do with a large-scale or substantial or systemic change to the voting rolls. It has nothing to do with it. It's not about policy or ideology. They said they're non-citizens. Under the federal and state constitution in Virginia, they don't get the vote. So, according to the Department of Justice, the Republican governor of Virginia is supposed to close his eyes. The Republican governor of Alabama, they're supposed to close their eyes. This is how they institutionalize fraud. They know exactly what they're doing. And then, of course, anytime there's a Republican who's interviewed on these damnable Sunday shows or any of their shows, are you going to accept the results of the election? I don't know. Did Al Gore accept the results of the 2000 election? He still says he won. I don't know. Did John Kerry accept the results of the 2004 election? He said he won. Did Jamie Raskin or a slew of Democrats accept the results of the 2016 election when they were challenging Trump on the floor of the House? Or when they impeached him twice and tried to imprison him while he was president of the United States with a criminal investigation? Do they accept the results of any election? Tell me. When Jamie Raskin and 40 or 50 other Democrats have made it clear that they will not accept the results if Donald Trump wins the election. They won't accept it. And if he manages to get the votes, that they will immediately move to impeach him using Jack Smith's filings in front of Judge Chunkin. Are they going to accept the results of the election? They never accept the results of election. They tried to impeach Reagan, for God's sakes. They removed Richard Nixon. They didn't accept the election of George W. Bush. They didn't accept the election of Donald Trump. And now they're out there, desperate, because Kamala Harris sucks. She sucks. She's always sucked. She was a lousy DA, a lousy attorney general, a lousy senator, a do-nothing lousy vice president. She stinks to the core. She's a self-promoter, self-aggrandizing narcissist. That's what she is. She doesn't love America. How can you be to the left of Bernie Sanders, who's a Stalinist, and love your country? How? I want to know.